Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 2 of the 69 video series of Private Pilot Ground School. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the four forces of flight, particularly lift, weight, thrust, and drag, and talk about how airplane lifts up from the ground. Now, you definitely wondered how something as big and heavy as an airplane actually can get off the ground. It seems almost impossible when you think about it. But the answer comes down to four main forces that are constantly working on the airplane. These are the lift, weight, thrust, and drag. So, first, it's actually a constant tug of war. What that means is that these four forces are constantly fighting each other in any stage of the flight, whether we're still on the ground, whether we're rolling up, whether we're up in the air. These forces are actually always in a fight, and whoever wins determines the result that we get, whether we fly, whether we descend, whether we ascend, whether we, anything. Okay? So, nearly everything later in this course traces back to this idea. So once you've understood what this is about and how these four forces work and what it means when we say tug of war between these four forces, then everything else would become clear. First of all, let me talk about weight. I know lift is on the left, but let me talk about weight. Weight is just simply gravity pulling the airplane down toward the earth. Since airplanes are very heavy, then gravity is always trying to keep them on the ground. Lift actually is the force that pushes the airplane upwards. Lift is created by the wings. Airplane wings have special shape called airfoil. And as the airplane moves forward, air flows over the top and underneath the wings. Because of the wing's shape and the way it directs the airflow, the pressure above the wing becomes lower than the pressure below it. At the same time, the wings also push air downward. In this response, the air pushes the airplane upward, and that is what creates lift. Okay? Now, thrust is actually the force of the plane going forward. It could come from an engine, it could come from a propeller. It's basically the airplane going forward. Drag is the resistance that thrust gets. So when something goes forward, imagine yourself in a car or in a motorcycle. When you drive fast, the air starts pushing you back. Sometimes when you drive fast and you're wearing a cap, your cap flies off or your hat flies off. That's called drag. It's not necessarily wind. That's drag. Actually, it works against thrust. Okay. Now these four forces act on the plane in a how do I say in pairs. So lift and weight are the vertical pairs, and drag and thrust are the horizontal pairs. Okay, so lift goes up, weight tries to bring the plane down, drag pushes the airplane back, and thrust pushes the airplane forward. The thing is that we always need these four forces. We can't if we had no drag, we can't land the plane. We can't slow down. If we didn't have weight, we cannot descend, because the plane actually descends using drag and weight, and it ascends using lift and thrust, and it maintains level when all of these four forces are equal to each other. So actually we need all these four forces, because some people get the implication or get the idea that drag actually works against flight or weight works against flight. In some sense, yes, physically, yes, drag is the opposite of thrust and weight is the opposite of lift. But um, in reality, we need these four forces because, like I explained earlier, you can't land a plane without drag and weight. You can't slow down your plane without drag. You can't you can't descend without weight because you're gonna use a combination of drag and weight to slow down your plane and start descending little by little. We're gonna get into that later when we're talking about the components of the airplane, how we use certain components like flaps and other components, how we use them to generate more drag or generate more thrust or work towards more weight or more lift. All right, so that should make it simple. Anyways, for lift to happen, the airplane has to be moving. That's where thrust comes in. Like I said, thrust is a forward force that is produced by the airplane's engines or propellers or anything, whether it's a propeller or jet engine. The job is the same. It pushes the airplane forward, making airflow happens over the wings so the wings can create lift. When we talked about drag, we said that drag is basically, like I said, air resistance, like I mentioned in the example of your hat flying away when you're on a motorcycle. As the airplane moves through the air pushes back against it, and that slows us down. And that's why I said we need drag in order to slow down or descend. So you can think of it like sticking your hand out of a car while you're driving. You would feel the air pushing against your hand. That's drag. You could think of it as the hat, like I mentioned earlier. When you drive fast, your hat flies off. Like I said, that's not necessarily wind. That's drag. All right? So, how does the plane actually take off? When a pilot starts down a runway, the engines produce more and more thrust, causing the airplane to speed up. As it goes faster, more air flows over the wings. And that means the wings create more lift. Eventually, the lift becomes greater than the airplane's weight. At that point, the airplane is no longer held to the ground, and it begins to rise into the air. Only when lift is greater than weight. Now, once the airplane is flying, all four forces have to stay balanced. Like I said, the engines continue producing thrust to overcome drag, while the wings keep producing enough lift to balance the airplane's weight. If one of these four forces change, the airplane actually responds. For example, if thrust increases, the plane speeds up. If lift becomes greater than weight, it climbs. If weight becomes greater than lift, it starts to descend. So even though flying might seem complicated, actually, it really comes down to these four forces working together. Lift pulls the airplane up, weight pulls it down, thrust moves it forward, and drag slows it down. When those forces are balanced the right way, an airplane can take off, fly safely through the air, and eventually land back on the ground. All right? So, this was it, basically. Please don't be hard on me because I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not, it's not like that. It's not that I don't have any idea what I'm doing, but I'm not used to teaching with PowerPoint. So I'm used to having a board and everything. But anyways, just subscribe, support me, because I'm doing this because I want to become a pilot. I'm not a pilot, but I want to teach people and learn along the way and support myself and eventually becoming a pilot. We all want to do that. But anyways, thank you. Coming up next is episode 3. and we're getting better day by day. We're getting better video by video. So we're going to isolate the force that gets the airplane off the ground and talk about it more in depth and clear up the Bernoulli versus Newton debate along the way. Anyways, so subscribe, and I look forward to posting the third episode. Thank you guys. See you later.